Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is my February monthly reading wrap-up. You might notice that the background looks a little bit different. I'm filming this while we are in Paris, which will be videos coming up very soon. But I figured since it is now March, I should probably film this wrap-up before I get too far into the month. So here are all the books that I read, plus at the end I'm going to do my March TBR. So first one that I read at the beginning, well, I finished it in February, I read it mostly in January though, was in a video that I already put out, and that was reading Nordic Noir for the first time. It was The Legacy by Yrsa Sigurdardóttir. I think I'm saying that right. It's been a second since I've had to say that. And I gave this one 4.5 stars. I actually really liked it. It was, spoiler, my favorite one from the video. It's a mystery where basically you're following a child advocate therapist lady that works basically with the police as a child advocate for kids who are involved in some way with crimes. And so there's this murder that they're trying to solve that this little, I think she's like 7, is the only witness of the murder. And so the main character Freya comes in as the child advocate to kind of help protect the girl while they're trying to solve this murder. I thought it was really good. It was quite thrillery at the beginning. The beginning was pretty freaky, and then it became more just like a crime, solve the mystery, and it had a really good twist at the end. I did not see it coming, but it felt like one you probably could have. So I thought it was really good. If you want more detailed review on that, go check out my video reading Nordic Noir. Then the next book that I read, I wanted something a little more lighthearted after reading several crime books. So I picked up Thorn Hedge by T. Kingfisher. This is more like a novella short story type of a book, where basically it's a retelling of sorts of Beauty and, or not, of Sleeping Beauty. That's what it is, Sleeping Beauty. And so basically you're following this little fairy who is in charge of keeping watch over the tower, and one day a prince comes and she's like, great, now I have to deal with this guy. So, and then it just kind of goes from there, and it's super sweet and short, and it's one of those books where I wish there was more, but I also think that it was so good because of how short it was, that it's just so to the point, simple. It's just a cute little fairy tale. And I gave this one 5 stars. I really liked it. I need to try reading some of her other books. Then the next 3 books that I read are in a video that also just barely got published, and that is the Maze Runner trilogy. So I read the first, or like the main 3 trilogy books, so the Maze Runner, the Scorch Trials, and the Death Cure. All of my detailed thoughts are in that vlog. I did the first book spoiler free, the second and third book I did with spoilers, so I will give you a spoiler free review. On the Maze Runner, I gave that one 4 stars. I thought it was really good. It's super fast paced. The books really keep a consistent intrigue throughout all of it, which I thought was really good. The Maze Runner is pretty much exactly what you'd expect it to be. It's a YA dystopian. They're in a maze. You have this group of boys trapped in this maze. They're trying to escape. Your main character is Thomas, who you start the book with him getting put into the maze. He has no memories except his name. And then a girl shows up, and it kind of changes things from there. So I thought Maze Runner was really good. It was probably my favorite of the 3. And then the second book, Scorch Trials, I did give 4 stars as well. I thought that that one was pretty good. That one is more of like giving you information. So Maze Runner sets up a whole dystopia with all this stuff, and you have tons of questions, and it's super confusing. Scorch Trials is where you start to get some of the information. So it's a little bit slower action-wise, but you're getting a much broader picture, kind of what's going on. So I thought it was good. It's a little slower, but I thought it was about the same as a Maze Runner. And then the Death Cure. I gave this one 3.75. It's basically a zombie movie in a book, is how I would describe the Death Cure. I did not like the ending of the trilogy. I won't go into too much detail because I don't want to spoil stuff, but that was not what I wanted the book to end like. So I don't know. I really thought the first 2 books were good. The third one kind of went downhill for me. But that's how I felt about the Maze Runner. So if you have read them and you want my full thoughts, you can go and watch that Maze Runner video, and I did go pretty in depth. And then the last book that I read in February, I didn't read a ton of books in February because the last one that I read was The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. And this is book 1 in the Stormlight Archive, which, if you know anything about Brandon Sanderson, that's kind of like one of the bigger series of his, Cosmere, which is what a lot of the books that he writes go into, this like Cosmere, it's this whole universe. I don't even know how to begin to explain the plot of Way of Kings. It's a very world building book. You're following, there's like 3 main characters. So you're following this girl who's basically trying to become the apprentice to this high up lady who's this like scholar. And then you follow this guy named Kaladin who's sort of like a general, I can't remember his exact level, in the army, and he's like trying to get into the king's army or whatever. And then you follow Dalinar, who is one of the high princes who's basically just under the king, and you're just kind of following their lives in this big world building. There's not like, each of them are kind of following their own plots. The first girl, Shalon, is pretty much following a heist plot. Kaladin's got all sorts of stuff going on. Dalinar is like seeing visions and stuff. So I don't know. It's a little hard to rate this book because I feel like it's just so much prep for the rest of the series. Where hopefully the next book will get a little bit more into kind of where things are actually going. So I don't know. I feel like a lot of people really rave about the first couple books, but I felt like it was really good writing. Obviously it's such a crazy world and it's super impressive what he's come up with. It's also like 1,000 pages, so it's a long book, but I just don't know where we're going from here still. So I'll need to read the second book at some point. I don't know how soon I'll pick that up, but I did end up giving Way of Kings 4 stars. I think it's a really good book. It's just hard to tell where the rest of the series is going from there. So those are the books that I actually read in February. I had quite the reading month, lots of stuff that I finished. So now I thought I'd briefly talk about my TBR. So 2 books that I brought with me, if I can find them. One I'm about halfway through, and this was actually on my February TBR, but I didn't quite get to finishing it. This is The Picture of Dorian Gray. This is for a video that I'm going to be doing. I figured while I'm in Europe, I might as well read some European authors. So Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I'm not even really sure how to explain this book. I'm about halfway through it, and I think I'm finally sort of starting to see what the plot is. Basically, you have this character named Dorian Gray, and there's a painter, and the painter does this portrait of him, and then all of a sudden the portrait starts like changing as Dorian Gray like has strong emotions or something. I don't know. Again, I'm only about halfway through, so I don't really know how to describe it. It's very interesting writing. Lots of rants from characters going just like off on things. So I don't know. I will be finishing this one again. I'm about halfway. And then the next one that I brought with me, I actually have the book, is A Winter's Promised by Christelle Dabos, something like that. And this one's actually a French author, which is why I brought it to France. So I'm hoping to get to this one, so I need to finish that one soon. But this one is a fantasy, it's YA fantasy. I'll just read the back because I don't actually know anything about this book. Ophelia possesses 2 special gifts, a talent for seeing into an object's past and the ability to travel through mirrors. Her peaceful existence on Anima is interrupted when she is promised in marriage to the taciturn Thorn, a member of a powerful clan from a cold and distant ark. A pawn in a dangerous game that will have far-reaching consequences for her entire world, Ophelia must navigate the lies and machinations, something like that, of her fiance's clan in order to survive within this first installment of the internationally best-selling Mirror Visitor series. So there you go. I don't know. I still don't really quite understand what it's about, but I'm in France, so it felt fitting to read a book by a French author. And those are the 2 that I brought with me. So I don't have my whole TBR. Not a lot of physical books happening in this video, but the two other books that I have for that video that I'm gonna read, obviously I'm not in Europe, but still figured I needed a couple more books to fill it out. I'm gonna be reading The Shadow of the Wind. I can't remember what the name of this author is, but it is from Spain, and it is basically, from what I can remember, this guy works at either a library or a bookstore or something, and then he finds some book that like people are trying to destroy, and he has to like try and keep the book safe. I don't really know a ton about it, but that's what that one is. And then the next one is Death with Interruptions, also by an author that I can't remember their name. I haven't looked at these in a second, but this one is from Portugal, and yeah, Portugal. And it is basically about this town where all of a sudden people stop dying. And it goes into, I think, a bunch of the like consequences of people not dying. And it's not necessarily just that people like become immortal, they stay their age. Like, people are still aging, and you're still having all the issues of growing old and being in pain and stuff like that, but just nobody dies. But it's only like their one little either town or country, and so all of a sudden it starts this trade of like people taking their old family members across the border so that they can die, instead of having to be like old and in pain. And then like it starts to dive into things like mortuaries are going out of business, and all of a sudden pets have to have these elaborate funerals because the mortuaries are going to go out of business if not, and stuff like that. So it sounds really interesting. And then it sounds like maybe at some point in the book death comes back, and all of a sudden they're now having to grapple with, well, we got used to not dying, and now I don't know. It sounds really interesting. It's not very long, so I'm super excited about that one. And then the last one that I've put on my TBR, and I'm hoping I'll get to a few more than this, but we'll see. I don't want to go too overboard where I'm doing some traveling and such. But the last one I'm putting on my TBR is City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. That's the right name, right? And this is one of I never know how to refer to this. It's part of the Shadowhunters universe, I think. I don't remember exactly which series this is, but this will be my first book getting into the whole world, so sorry if I don't know all the information. But from what I understand, there's like these demons, and then you got the demon hunters, shadow hunters, and some of them are more modern, some of them are like Victorian age. I have no idea which one City of Bones is. I am going to be going based off of the reading order that she has on her website. So like the author's website, I'm going based off of that. I know there's a lot of different places that people say you can start, but I'm just going to follow her reading order and go with that. So City of Bones is where I've decided to start. I'm excited to jump into it. If it's something that I like, there's a lot of books in the Shadowhunters universe, so that opens up a whole new realm of possibilities for me. So I'm excited to start that one. So that's going to be the last one on my TBR. I'm hoping I get to some other books. I have so many books that I've gathered for like Christmas and over the just past few months and Black Friday, things like that, that I really want to get to. So I have a lengthy physical TBR of books that I would love to get to soon, but I'm trying to be somewhat reasonable on what I actually put on my official TBR in this video. So with that being said, that is all of the books that I read in February plus my March TBR. If you've read any of these books and you have thoughts on them, or if you have thoughts on any of the books that I am going to be reading, please let me know down below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.